What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Coach Magali, and if this is your first video of mine, we talk all about building muscle, proper training, losing weight, nutrition tips, all of that good stuff. I honestly just try to make this stuff as simple and easy to understand as I possibly can. So if you're interested in that type of content, then please do subscribe down below so that you don't miss any of my future uploads. Also, make sure you like the video. It lets myself and the YouTube algorithm know that you guys enjoy content and videos on topics like this so that I can make more. And without further ado, let's get into one of the biggest mistakes that I made when I started weight training a few years ago that I wish somebody told me before. It would have saved me years. And that is, I was using the equation of volume to track my progress. And the volume equation is the amount of volume you do is equal to the sets times the reps times the weight. So for example, if you were doing 3 sets of 10 with 100 pounds, your volume output would be about 300. And I do want to make it clear that this method, it wasn't that it was totally useless. It did progress me, it did make me stronger, it did provide results, but it's just that those results were so slow and so like little by little. I could have done with it being done a little bit faster. So if you haven't heard of the term progressive overload, it basically means we do more over time to load the muscles more and more and more to create the tension that's necessary to grow it, right? So you get stronger, you adapt, that is now easy, you must add more to make it more difficult. You adapt, you must add more and more and more, which is why this strategy worked. It just took forever because my focus was on doing more and more, either more reps, more sets, or more weight. The main problem with this method and why it took forever was that it was missing a very important component of building muscle. And that is a conversation of intensity and how close to failure we are in every set. I had no idea that this concept existed, but it's the reason why muscle grows. Yes, if you progressively overload, you do more reps, you do more weight over time, that is going to get you somewhere. But in the context of how close are your sets to true muscular failure? Let's say you're doing a leg press for 4 sets of 15. And let's say around the 12th rep, it's already burning. But you're still going, your speed hasn't really slowed down, and you stop at 15. Let's say you kept that same weight, but you kept going past 15 until you physically could not do another rep. And let's say you got to rep 23. So then rep 24 would have been failure, meaning you physically would have not been able to lift it. You would have done half a rep and then fallen. You would have had to compromise your form. 23 was what we call 0 reps in reserve. No reps left in the tank. That was it. So if I'm normally stopping at 4 sets of 15, let's say I focus on adding 110 pounds. So I'm progressively overloading. I added more weight, but my failure point was at 23 reps. And I'm so far away from that number that although I'm progressing in my numbers and I'm getting stronger, I'm not getting closer to that. That is the magic sauce. That is where muscle grows. Far too often, we train so far away from our true failure point that the sets, although they may hurt and it starts to burn, they're not being effective at actually stimulating the muscle enough to cause it to grow enough. And that's why it can take years and years and years for people to see progress, because they're slowly incrementing more weight, more reps, more sets, but they're never focusing on intensity, on how close are they to actually failing the lift. And that is where the muscle grows the most. When we get close to failure, not actually failing, but right about 3 reps or less left in the tank, that's when our muscle is like twitching, we're slowing down, we're sweating, we're crying maybe. That's where the muscle is basically getting the most stimulus and the most growth. When I was using the volume equation, I was on paper progressing, I was doing more weight over time, but the question of how intense are my sets, how close am I to failure, and how can I get myself closer if I'm not close enough, that was never a question in my mind. And that's why, again, it took a lot longer than it needed to. We now know that rep ranges from 6 all the way up to 30 provide the same amount of muscle growth. You can build a ton of muscle keeping your sets at reps around 8 to 12. You can do it from 12 to 20, 20 to 30, with the caveat that those last 3 reps that you perform are close to failure. And that applies to all muscle groups. Your glutes grow the same way, your quads grow the same way, everything does the same way. There's no muscle that is exactly exempt of this. So if there's a muscle group that you're really struggling to build, I guarantee it's because you're not focusing on intensity. You're not hitting the right intensity for your sets. So how do you actually implement this? How do you actually incorporate this into your current routine? So the first thing you want to do is master your technique. We don't want to be playing around with getting close to failure, where our form will break down, where things will be really, really difficult if your form is not on point. So you need to be able to do your leg presses correctly, your shoulder presses correctly, your bicep curls correctly. Keep in mind that correct is different for everybody. It looks slightly different for different people. Take the time to study and figure that out for yourself. If you have any questions on form and technique on anything specific, leave it below in the comments and I'd be more than happy to make a video about it. But do know that there is not one right way to do everything, but just find the right way for you and make sure your technique is as optimal as it can get. Because when we get close to failure, we don't have a lot of room for error. If your technique is off, people can get seriously injured in things like this. So make sure that's number one priority. Your form and technique are on point. The second thing is you have to figure out what failure is to get close to it. And there's an unfortunate reality about this whole thing. I can't tell you what failure is. Nobody can tell you what failure is. You have to experience it. You have to push some sets to that point and see how many reps got me here. And then what does that mean for my future sets next week? How many reps, how much weight do I want to lift to get myself close to this point? But without the physical experience of failing a lift, you're never going to know if you're close. And that's the problem, is getting to failure is scary. It is painful. That is how you're actually going to know. Otherwise, you're going to be playing the game of trying to figure it out by just increasing little by little, and it's going to take a lot longer for you. Even if you add more weight or you do more reps or even if you do more sets, the question of intensity is not being answered. And that's the most important thing. You could be a lot of reps away from failure even though you're progressing in strength. And again, the results will suffer. So how do you test your sets to failure? So you want to choose exercises that are relatively safe or have a spotter with you. If you've never done this before, it's important to have somebody or something keeping you safe so that you don't get injured. I also like to start testing this stuff with clients with machines that are relatively safe. So I'm not going to make them do this with a barbell squat, but I will have them do this with a dumbbell squat or with a leg press, something that can easily be set down in case of pain or they need to stop or they're physically failing so the weight won't crush them. Which is why I said, again, technique has to be on point, because if we're reaching these levels of intensity, the risk for injuries increases. Let's say you want to test going to failure on a leg press. So let's say you load 150 pounds, which is a moderate weight for you. And let's say you do your sets and you're going to keep going, even if it's burning, until you get to that last rep where you're shaking, you're barely locking it out, and if you were to go for another one, it would stay at the bottom, it wouldn't come up. That's what you're going for. And let's say you get 20 reps. So the 21st rep would have been failure, meaning you wouldn't have been able to do it. That means for your sets to be successful moving forward, you want to be between reps 16 and 19, sometimes 20, but never past that. So 16 to 20 are good reps to stay within. The closer you get, the more stimulus, but also the more danger. So you have to be careful not to do this all of the time. You don't want to be more than 3 reps before that point. And then if you do this enough times, you also get the sense of understanding what failure feels like, what getting close feels like. There's a very specific sensation. Your speed will slow down. You will start to make really ugly faces. Things are going to start shaking. You're going to feel a lot of pressure. Like, it's going to feel extremely uncomfortable. And so then you can translate that feeling into all the other exercises that you're doing to assess, am I close to failure? You don't have to fail every single thing to figure out what failure is for everything. But once you experience it with a few different exercises, both upper and lower body, then you can think in the moment when you're in the set, yeah, no, I have more. Yeah, no, I can do more weight. Yeah, no, I have more reps than me. I'm not even close. And then you can ensure that all of the sets that you do are within those 3 or less reps to failure, to ensure that each of your sets are being effective. Basically, every one of your working sets, not including warm-ups, you want to be using this concept. This is how you drive progress. And then let's say, for example, you failed the leg press at 20, and so you are going to stop at about 18 reps next week. You stop at 18 reps, you're able to do it. Next week you add 10 pounds and you go to 18 reps, and then you add more pounds and you go to 18, or you increase a lot more of the weight and you reduce the reps, so now your failure rate is lower so that you don't have to do 20 reps. So there's many ways to do this, there's many avenues, but the main concept is being within 3 reps of your body physically giving out on you. That's the goal. I will say, if you're doing an exercise for well over 20 reps to failure, you're probably better off increasing the weight a little bit more to keep that number under 20. Usually my sweet spot is about 8 to 15. I don't really go below that for most clients unless they're training for true strength, and I don't go above that normally because it takes a lot of time and we can get the same effect at a lower rep range, assuming we're doing the right weight. Also keep in mind, just because your muscles are burning or you're sweating a little bit or you're tired does not mean that you have failed the lift. Does not mean that you're close to failure. Muscular failure is very different from your mind getting tired, which is why I prefer lower reps, because it feels more doable to get through 8 than 15 or 20. Once you start training close to failure for all of your working sets and you really push that intensity with progressive overload also in the back of your mind, like every time that I walk into the gym, I'm gonna try to do a little bit more. You save time because your body cannot do 4 sets of 20, 3 sets of 30, 5 sets of 20. Like, you need to downsize the amount of sets and reps you do to be able to keep up that intensity. We can't do too much. Our bodies just don't have it in us. So you typically want to stay between 2 and 3 working sets, so 2 or 3 sets close to failure, with about 8 to 15, sometimes 20 reps. I wouldn't go above that, to be honest with you. Not time efficient, and it's not providing anything more beneficial than staying under. And then that's going to shave off a lot of time at the gym and make your workouts that much more effective. You're going to build so much more muscle, you're going to make so much more progress, and be in the gym less time. If you have a program that says 4 sets of 15 or 4 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 12, whatever it may be, use that as a guideline, but keep in mind that reaching that rep is not the most important thing. It's how close that rep is to your rep to failure. And the gap should not be more than 3 reps. If it is, increase the weight. That's the most important driver of muscle growth, is proximity to failure. So again, you need to have first-hand experience on what this feels like to know if you're close or not in the future. So choose a couple different exercises for both the upper and the lower body to test it. Then get used to that feeling, how those last 2 reps, they're gonna feel like death. You're gonna feel like you're gonna suffer. It's gonna hurt. Again, assuming your technique is good and you have good execution, you shouldn't be in pain because of bad form or something being wrong. It should be your muscles are just screaming for help, like, we're dying here, and that's what you're going for. And once you test it a few times, then you can apply that same information to all the other exercises you do to make sure that those also are within a few reps to failure. And then again, every week that you walk into the gym, you're either doing more reps or more weight. More sets are not part of progressive overload. Progressive overload is making your set more intense. Your actual set. More sets isn't gonna do that. You either increase more weight or you increase more reps. And whatever you do, 3 reps within failure. Improving your technique along the way, making sure that's on point, but that is the bottom line. That's what matters. Had I known this in the beginning, I would have done so much less and seen so much more progress. But it's okay. I learned through my mistakes, and then I learned this information now so that I can communicate that to you guys and to my clients, and hopefully avoid the same mistake for them that happened to me. So that's all I can do, right? But take it from me, it's gonna save you a lot of time. You're gonna see a lot better results. It's gonna be more fun. It's also gonna be more painful, but it's gonna be worth it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope this was enlightening to you, and if you haven't heard of this, maybe that now you can have a better idea on how to progress in the gym. If you have any further questions or clarifications on anything I talked about, please leave any comments or questions below. Like the video to let me know you enjoy topics on this so that I can make more videos. And also, you guys, if you know somebody who also needs help with this or really doesn't understand how to train properly, or you think this video would be helpful to them, I would appreciate it if you shared it with them as well. It helps me share my message out and get more people to view this video, which is going to help my channel out greatly. Also, of course, don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.